hello there. Well, as you can tell by this awesome hoodie, I'm going to be talking about The Amazing Spider-Man for this episode of Commentary Companions. And I'm actually genuinely excited to be doing this commentary over Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance. Yes, I'm aware this hoodie was technically sold for The Amazing Spider-Man 2, but it's a dang good looking hoodie. Anyway, The Amazing Spider-Man is available to stream on these platforms. Of course, if you have The Amazing Spider-Man on DVD, you're welcome to use said DVD to watch the film while listening to this Commentary Companions episode. So anyway, let's web up and enjoy this Commentary Companions episode of The Amazing Spider-Man. Excelsior! Welcome to Commentary Companions. I'm your host, Tony Garcia, and today we're looking at The Amazing Spider-Man, released in 2012. That's right, the first of many reboots for the Spider-Man franchise. You know, when I was a freshman, I kind of used to resent this sequel because, you know, like a lot of people who were fans of the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man films, I pretty much I favored the Sam Raimi films, and I wanted there to be a Spider-Man 4 after Spider-Man 3, and so I was so flippin' mad when they decided to go the reboot route. Of course, I think it's not. I mean, yes, it's definitely the studio's fault that this reboot happened, but I'm not going to blame it on the actors and the filmmakers who worked tirelessly to make the reboot happen. And looking back on The Amazing Spider-Man nearly around 14 years later, the film actually does hold up way better than when I was in high school. I've become a lot more open to it, and I've actually learned to appreciate The Amazing Spider-Man, specifically the first film. The second film's kind of a mess, but I'll probably get into why that film is specifically a mess first. Now, of course, after Spider-Man 3, and it was a financial success, of course Sony wanted to do a sequel to Spider-Man 3, you know, Spider-Man 4 with Sam Raimi directing and Tobey Maguire returning as Spider-Man. Now, originally, The Amazing Spider-Man was conceived as Spider-Man 4, a direct sequel to Sam Raimi's trilogy. Sony had actually begun pre-production before opting to make this film as a reboot instead. Sony had renegotiated contracts with Sam Raimi, the director, as well as Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst, each receiving a reported $30 million for a 3-picture deal with the intention of starting a new trilogy in this series. Scripts were commissioned from James Vanderbilt, Alvin Sargent, David Koepp, and Gary Ross, with each writer earning upwards of $1 million or more for their services. The story would have introduced the Vulture as a new villain. Raimi initially approached Ben Kingsley for the role before casting John Malkovich. Malkovich was actually slated to play Norman Osborn in the original film series, but had to withdraw due to scheduling conflicts. In addition to the Vulture, this film would also introduce the villainous Felicia Hardy, with Anne Hathaway set to play the character. In the initial story, Hardy would become her comic book alter ego Black Cat, though later script rewrites recreated Hardy as an original character called Vulturous. But Raimi also expressed interest in having Dylan Baker return as Dr. Kurt Connors, who would transform into the villain, the Lizard. Whether or not this would be during the film or it would be a post-credits thing, I'm not exactly sure. But before I continue, I guess I should state this fact regarding Peter Parker's parents. Now, Peter Parker's parents, Richard and Mary Parker, originally made a cameo appearance in Amazing Spider-Man Annual No. 5 in 1968. They made their official comic book debut in Untold Tales of Spider-Man No. 1 in May of 1997, created by Stan Lee and his brother Larry Lieber. In the comics, Richard and Mary Parker were agents for the CIA and then S.H.I.E.L.D. Also, turns out Peter has a long-lost sister named Teresa. I kind of forgot about that. I didn't know that Peter has a missing sister, and I doubt we're ever going to see Teresa Parker ever appear in future movies. I wouldn't bet on it. Yeah, Flash is totally not sorry for doing that. Now, now where was I about Spider-Man 4? Yes. So Sam Raimi wanted Dylan Baker to return as Kurt Connors and wanted him to transform into the Lizard, though executive producer Avi Arad vetoed this idea. With development costs skyrocketing in excess of $100 million, dollars, and with Raimi unhappy with repeated versions of the script, and his commitments to working on Drag Me to Hell, and tensions rising between Raimi, Maguire, and the studio, well, due to Sam Raimi's dissatisfaction, he left the project. And with Tobey Maguire's contract about to expire, well, Sony wasn't sure what to do, because here's the thing. According to a licensing contract that Sony had made with Marvel, Sony is legally obligated to produce a new Spider-Man film within a few years, or the rights will revert back to Marvel. And they didn't have enough time, and despite the fact that they had absolutely no time to develop a game plan, Sony decided to reboot the film. And yeah, so that's how Spider-Man 4 evolved into the Amazing Spider-Man. I do think it's rather frustrating that I do find it frustrating that I find it frustrating that they chose to reboot it instead of Spider-Man 4. It does frustrate me, but The Amazing Spider-Man is actually better than it has any right to be, all things considered. Also, I kind of wish that the guy playing Flash had a full set of hair. Like, a full set of blonde hair. But, I guess he's passable. But it is almost appropriate that The Amazing Spider-Man is released pretty much on Spider-Man's 50th anniversary. Also, The Amazing Spider-Man was the beginning of Andrew Garfield's relationship with Emma Stone, which lasted until 2015. And I must admit, Emma Stone is actually a better Gwen Stacy than Bryce Dallas Howard. She actually is more believable as the character. Now, to prepare for his role as Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield studied the movements of spiders and tried to incorporate them as much as he could. Parker is a boy spider in terms of how he moves, and not just in the suit. Also, Andrew Garfield took up yoga and pilates to help him be more flexible in the role of Spider-Man. Yum. Now, on selecting Andrew Garfield to play Peter Parker, director Mark Webb said, "Though his name may be new to many, those who knew this young actor's work understand his extraordinary talents. He has a rare combination of intelligence, wit, and humanity. Mark my words, you will love Andrew Garfield as Peter Parker." Now, the filmmakers cited Steve Ditko's early work on Spider-Man and Brian Michael Bendis' Ultimate Spider-Man comic and Batman Begins as an influence on the film. Hey, look, it's Seymour Skinner. I'm sure you're probably wondering, why did you reference Seymour Skinner from The Simpsons? This is actually a reference to when Martin Sheen guest voiced on The Simpsons playing the real Seymour Skinner, and it turns out the principal Skinner on the show was an imposter named Armin Tanzaria. Yes, I just mentioned it. Whoopsie doodles, Butterfingers. Now, The Amazing Spider-Man was co-written by James Vanderbilt, Steve Kloves, and returning writer Alvin Sargent. The Amazing Spider-Man was actually Sargent's last screenplay before his death in 2019. And now, of course, you may know James Vanderbilt for his collaborations with Radio Silence, having co-written Ready or Not, and producing the sequel and playing Mr. LaBelle, and he also co-wrote Scream 5 and Scream 6, and he also wrote Abigail with Radio Silence. He has also written Darkness Falls, The Rundown, starring Dwayne Johnson, Zodiac, The Losers, White House Down, Independence Day, Resurgence, The House with a Clock in Its Walls, and he also co-wrote Scream 7 with Kevin Williamson. And James Vanderbilt made his directorial debut with the political drama Truth. Now, the other co-writer was Steve Kloves, and he wrote and directed The Fabulous Baker Boys, and has co-written every single Harry Potter film except for Order of the Phoenix. He also co-wrote every single Fantastic Beasts movie with J.K. Rowling. I mean, I guess that's for the Potterheads who are kind of interested in that. And also, here's a rather bittersweet fact. Co-screenwriter Alvin Sargent was actually married to the film's producer, Laura Siskin. The Amazing Spider-Man was the last Spider-Man movie that Laura Siskin produced before her death on June 12, 2011. Before she became a producer, Laura Siskin started out as an assistant to producer John Peters on the 1976 movie A Star is Born, starring Barbra Streisand and the late Chris Christopherson, otherwise known as Whistler, from Blade. Aside from producing Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy and The Amazing Spider-Man 2000... But yeah, Laura Siskin had produced all three of the Spider-Man films directed by Sam Raimi, and Sam Raimi had such a nice relationship with Laura Siskin. And yeah, Amazing Spider-Man 2012 was one of the last projects Laura Siskin had produced before she died. And other films that she had produced were Murphy's Romance, Pretty Woman, starring Julia Roberts, Hero, starring Dustin Hoffman and Andy Garcia, What About Bob, starring Bill Murray and Richard Dreyfuss, and she also contributed to the story to Hero and What About Bob. Siskin also produced As Good as It Gets, starring Jack Nicholson, Stealth, starring Jamie Foxx, and her last official project that Laura Siskin ever produced before her death was The Butler. Now, of course, the biggest reason that Sally Field pretty much accepted the role of Aunt May in The Amazing Spider-Man is because, she did it as a favor for Laura Siskin, who she was good friends with. Also, I like Peter's little gadget of having the door unlocked and such to kind of show he's, something of a scientist. Sorry, I had to say something of a scientist. Now, in Peter's bedroom, a photo of comedian Donald Glover is visible. In 2010, when the movie was first announced and initial casting for the role of Spider-Man was underway, Donald Glover used Twitter to somewhat jokingly campaign for an audition. Years later, he would become part of the cast of Spider-Man Homecoming, playing Aaron Davis. Now, when he was first cast, Andrew Garfield said, "I've been waiting for this phone call for 24 years, for someone to call me up and say, hey, we want you to pretend to be a character that you've always wanted to be all your life, and we're going to do it with cool cameras and cool effects, and you're going to feel like you're swinging through New York City. Do you want to do that? Let me just consult with my 7-year-old self and see what he thinks. Like every young boy who feels stronger on the inside than they look on the outside. Any skinny boy basically who wishes their muscles matched their sense of injustice. God, it's just the stuff that dreams are made of, for sure. I've been preparing for it ever since Halloween when I was 4 years old and I wore my first Spider-Man costume." Now, unlike Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield was a big fan of Spider-Man. I mean, now, Mark Webb describes the theme of the movie as the missing piece within all of us. Peter has no parents, and he fills that void with Spider-Man. Kurt is not as strong as Spider-Man on the inside, but he wants to get back his arm and fill that void, and essentially he becomes a big bully. You'll notice, also, fun fact, Marvel had attempted to try and incorporate the Oscorp building into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and they wanted to try and include the Oscorp building into the Avengers, but those plans fell through. Yeah, right. And now to find a badge that would make me pass off for one of these guys. Also, the funny thing is, Andrew Garfield played a Hispanic person, Eduardo Saverin in The Social Network. And the funny thing is, Andrew Garfield actually could pass off for a white Hispanic guy if it was possible. And also, this does have good payoff. That really did produce a big laugh out of me after I was rewatching this film. Where I go, you go. That guy really sells it. Emma Stone was originally considered for 21 Jump Street, but she had to drop out to work on Amazing Spider-Man instead. Her role was given to Brie Larson. I totally forgot Brie Larson was in 21 Jump Street, but then again, the last time I ever watched 21 Jump Street was I was 15 going on 16. Now, Dr. Connors made his comic book debut in The Amazing Spider-Man number 6 in 1963, created by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. I also forgot to mention this fact regarding Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. The fact is, when The Incredible Hulk was being still in the middle of development, Louis Ferretier, I will have to look up how to pronounce that later. The director of The Incredible Hulk actually wanted Peter Parker to make a cameo appearance in The Incredible Hulk, and he actually wanted Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man to make a cameo appearance as Spider-Man in The Incredible Hulk. So we were this close to getting Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man into the Marvel Cinematic Universe before Tom Holland. But unfortunately, Sony, who was still trying to cling onto the rights as desperately as they could, was like, no way, we're not going to let you do it. So they had to pretty much scrap those plans, and then eventually the creative differences between Sam Raimi and Sony caused Sam Raimi to walk out, and instead of trying to find a replacement director, they pretty much gave Tobey Maguire the boot and did the reboot. It's a real shame, because I would have loved to have seen the idea of would have loved to have seen Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man in The Incredible Hulk. That would have been so awesome. And it does peeve me that we'll never get to see that. Right. You'll notice that the film noticeably borrows a few story elements from the first 7 issues of the Ultimate Spider-Man series. A few examples are that not only was Spider-Man's mutation connected to Oscorp like in the comics, but also Spider-Man battled the villain in his school after the villain discovered his secret identity. At one point in the film, Peter is wearing a Ramones t-shirt. The Ramones recorded a notable cover of the theme from the 1967 Spider-Man animated series. Also, Spider-Man is this version. The Amazing Spider-Man is the first Spider-Man film to not feature Mary Jane Watson, who's usually his love interest. Now, also, all 4 Spider-Man films have filmed on the Universal Studios Hollywood backlot. Ironically symbolic of the series itself, portions of the backlot burned down on June 1st, 2008, meaning that the first 3 used the old backlot, while this reboot uses the new backlot. Well, that's interesting. Originally, there were supposed to be 2 other villains with the Lizard in the film. Proto-Goblin and Big Wheel, who were both old comic book villains. However, they were both cut from the story. Big Wheels was just an idea before being cut, because the movie would have been too long. There would have been too many origins and too many fight scenes. Furthermore, there have been a glut of similar Goblin characters in these film franchises. Irfan Khan plays Dr. Rajit Ratha, the character who would have been the Proto-Goblin. Let's see. Pure imagination. You're probably wondering, why am I singing Pure Imagination? Oh, yes, well, here's why. Andrew Garfield requested that the song Pure Imagination from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory be played when filming the otherwise silent scene in which Peter goes into the web harvesting room with the spiders. It sounds weird, but, when in Rome, I guess. Uh-oh. Spiders! And one of them is a Parker spider. Yeah. Before filming, Welsh actor Rhys Ifans searched his role by meeting several real handicapped people who have missing limbs. He also spent 1 month performing his daily activity using only his left hand, including tying a tie. The script had a small snippet written where Connors ties a tie, but it was not filmed as it was too time-consuming. Yeah, he's dying from Goblin Syndrome. Yeah, well, that's ironic. I'll mention why that's ironic when I do my commentary companions episode for The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Whereas I like the first Amazing Spider-Man. Actually, now that I think about it, I need to rewatch. The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Busted. Yep, there's the Parker spider. Sorry, something bit me. I feel a little woozy here. Ah, 23 minutes in and we finally get the spider bite. At least before, I think. Blink. Ooh, what was that? Also, yeah, the chick on the subway whose black shirt is accidentally torn off by Peter. She's played by Tia Texada, and I just found out a few minutes ago she actually voiced Talon, the Bang Baby villain on on Static Shock. I didn't realize this until just now, which is kind of a surprise. I mean, it's funny because Static Shock has Phil Lamar voicing the titular hero, and Phil Lamar made a cameo appearance in Spider-Man 2. Ain't that just a crazy coincidence? Total coinkydink. Now, the film was on the short list for the Academy Award for Best Visual Effects, but was not nominated. Okay, that fly is distractingly CG. Also, this is weird. Amazing Spider-Man surpassed Forrest Gump as Sally Field's highest-grossing film worldwide. Forrest Gump remains her highest-grossing domestically. And it also surpassed Catch Me If You Can as Martin Sheen's highest-grossing film. Also, this film is the first Spider-Man film to not be released the same year as a Harry Potter film. Spider-Man came out the same year as Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Spider-Man 2 came out the same year as Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. And Spider-Man 3 came out the same year as Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. He's got the munchies. Back in 2010, shortly after the movie was announced, many fans on website forums discussed their dream casting ideas, including having the movie be titled Peter Parker, Spider-Man, with Mysterio and as the antagonist, Black Cat, making an appearance, and the biggest fan castings at the time included Logan Lerman as Spider-Man, Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Mary Jane Watson, Evan Rachel Wood as Gwen Stacy, and Arlie Ermey as J. Jonah Jameson. Ouch, that's gotta hurt. But The Amazing Spider-Man was Martin Sheen's second comic book movie after Spawn. I remember seeing him in Spawn. That's how I was introduced to him. I know, pretty weird. Now, actress Elena Satine had campaigned for the role of Mary Jane Watson before the producers chose Gwen Stacy instead of Mary Jane. And he just uses the toothpaste anyway. I mean, oh! Oh! Oh man, some Marvel superheroes just can't seem to catch a break when it comes to properly using the bathroom sink. But yeah, with The Amazing Spider-Man, the franchise broke $3 billion at the global box office. Oh boy, this is going to be a mouthful. I'll talk about it later. But also, The Amazing Spider-Man shot under the working title of Fiona's Tale. Now, interestingly, Martin Sheen's son, Charlie Sheen, was connected to rumors about playing Spider-Man for a proposed film project during the 1990s. This finger stick. Now, before Mark Webb got the job of directing, James Cameron, David Fincher, Wes Anderson, and Catherine Bigelow were considered to direct the film. Now, isn't that crazy? Now, Andrew Garfield was already 26 when he auditioned for Spider-Man and thus felt uncomfortable about playing a high schooler. However, he recalled some helpful advice given to him by his acting coach, Greta Seacat. You have to treat this screen test as if you're making a short film with all your high school friends. That allowed me to go, fuck it, keep the channel open. Be free, this doesn't matter, treat this like it doesn't fucking matter. That's when whatever talent you do have can just be there. You're a child again, you're emotionally available, and you're not tight in trying to get it right. Now, Andrew Garfield was paid $500,000, $500,000, 1/8 of Tobey Maguire's salary for Spider-Man, which was $4 million. Now, I should have pointed this out, but in the canon to The Amazing Spider-Man, according to the Time Variance Authority, the Amazing Spider-Man universe takes place on Earth 120703. The number is derived from July 3rd, 2012, the release of the date of the film. Makes sense to me. Now, as you know, Kurt Connors in the comics does have a son, and his son's name is Billy. And apparently, Billy Connors only appears in a deleted scene. Ain't that a shame? Also, interestingly, this version of Spider-Man was born in 1996, same year as me. Now, Peter sitting on top of the porch while studying his father's notes was a reference to his spider instinct, how spiders have a tendency to favor heights. Now, John Slattery, Sam Elliott, and R. Lee Ermey were rumored for the role of J. Jonah Jameson. However, this character does not appear in the film. Also, Joe Jonas revealed that he auditioned for and lost the role of Spider-Man to Andrew Garfield, saying, "In the moment you're destroyed or you're defeated, but you realize this person was brilliant. I remember years ago I was up for Spider-Man and I was so excited, and it was the year Andrew Garfield got it. Obviously, he was the right one. But I remember that was a big thing at the time, going back for callbacks, and the director used to be a music video director, so I was like, I got an in here. But you know what? I love the process of auditioning and putting yourself out there and having to prove yourself." Also, Michael Fassbender, who plays who played Magneto in X-Men First Class, was originally considered for the role of Dr. Kurt Connors. His Inglourious Basterds co-star Christoph Waltz was later rumored to be attached to The Amazing Spider-Man as well. Now, the Amazing Spider-Man is the first film to use RED's Epic Series digital cameras. Originally, The Hobbit and Unexpected Journey was going to be the first feature to use it, but a delay at the start of production instead gave this film the distinction. However, when shooting began in December 2010, the camera model was still in its prototype stages, so an engineer from RED had to be on standby throughout the shoot for immediate technical assistance and support. And as I mentioned in my Commentary Companions episode of Spider-Man 2, the 2004 sequel was originally titled The Amazing Spider-Man. Yeah. Jerk. For many years, the movie was criticized for being too gritty and dark, in the same veins of Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. Andrew Garfield argued, "We haven't gone for gritty, we've gone for grounded. If we try and make Batman, we'll fail. The new Batman is its own thing, and also in terms of tone, Spider-Man is nothing like that character. Spider-Man is witty, Spider-Man is a kid, Spider-Man wants to have fun. He's a teenager and needs to go through first love and piss around." But yeah, Lars Siskin died of breast cancer a month after production wrapped on The Amazing Spider-Man. Now, other actors who were considered for the role of Peter Parker were, this is going to be a mouthful, Taylor Lautner, Josh Hutcherson, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Logan Lerman, Robert Pattinson, Jamie Bell, Daniel Radcliffe, Michael Angarano, Michael Cera, Alden Ehrenreich, Zac Efron, Aaron Taylor-Johnson, Xavier Samuel, Jim Surges, Drake Bell, Liam Aiken, Joe Jonas, and the late Anton Yelchin. Teacher then comes in and Flash is like, he did it. Yes. Well, not exactly. And you better remember it. Oh boy. This is the part where Peter dies from embarrassment. Now, other actresses who were considered for the role of Gwen Stacy were Ashley Greene, Mia Wasikowska, Scout Taylor Compton, Teresa Palmer, Amber Heard, blech, Diana R. Agron, Brooklyn Decker, Imogen Poots, Lindsay Lohan, Skylar Shea, Emma Roberts, Melise, Emily Browning, Lily Collins, Nicole Gale Anderson, Anna Kendrick, Ophelia Lovibond, Natalia Ramos, Sarah Paxton, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Georgina Haig, Hilary Duff, and Dominique McElligott. It's also interesting to note that Mary Elizabeth Winstead had played Gwen Grayson, who's, a reference to Gwen Stacy, in the superhero spoof Sky High. Also, it's kind of cool knowing that Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone were both nominated for an Academy Award for Best Lead Performance in 2016. Garfield for his performance in Hacksaw Ridge, and Emma Stone for a role in La La Land, which Stone won. It was her first win of 2 Oscars. Yeah. Also, yeah, I can see why this is why they're so considered cute. Oh yeah, if this was a cartoon, he would be blushing right now. Yeah, I don't know what this song is, but it's definitely a 2012 song. Really shows that it's a product of its time. Kind of distracting a little bit. Now, it was a creative decision by the filmmakers to have most of the stunts performed practically on rigs by actors and stuntmen, rather than extensively use CGI animation. Mark Webb explained they wanted to make the film more physical and thus more realistic. While filming in New York, the crew built a whole rig hundreds of feet long over Riverside Drive in Harlem, and Andy Armstrong built a car rig with a series of wires to help with VFX, which required an incredible wealth of acrobatics. Uh-oh. Yeah, totally won't come into use later on in the film. When Peter searches online for the name of his father, Richard Parker, one of the options offered is Richard Parker Life of Pi, as the same name is given to a character in a novel, which was adapted as the 2012 film Life of Pi, directed by Ong Lee, about the same time as this film. Irfan Khan appears in both films and speaks the name Richard Parker in both. Yeah, not a good idea to ignore that call. Also, yeah, this film is notable for being the second superhero film composed by James Horner. I've mentioned James Horner before on How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and I must admit, his score here is actually pretty good. I mean, it's nowhere near as great as Danny Elfman's scores for the first two Spider-Man films, but I do think it is better than it is better than it's better than his score for Avatar, and it doesn't feel generic. I swear there are times where, for The Amazing Spider-Man, there are times where I feel like he's borrowing some of his score from Troy, but I don't hate it, you know? It's actually still, it doesn't stop my overall enjoyment of it. And there are times where I feel like his score belongs in a romantic comedy from the 90s, but it's still decent. Oh boy. Yeah. Yeah, this is the angriest Uncle Ben. $12 blocks. How long is 12 blocks? How long is 12 blocks? Okay, 12 blocks. I think it's less than a mile. Yeah, that's the word. How dare I? How dare you? I mean, oops. Yeah, I mean, it's understandable he's angry. Yeah, he just needs to let off some steam. Now, in an interview with Howard Stern in 2016, Sally Field was asked if she liked the film, and her answer was, not especially. It's not my kind of movie, but my friend Lawrence Siskin was the producer, and we knew it would be her last film, and she was my first producing partner, and she was a spectacular human. Now, Field and Siskin previously worked together on Murphy's Romance. Now, when Stern asked Field how much effort she put into preparing for the Aunt May role, she said, "Not a great deal. It's really hard to find a three-dimensional character in it, and you work it as much as you can, but you can't put 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound bag." But, she said she liked working with Andrew Garfield. Yeah, to be fair, that clerk is a dick. Yes, I got. You didn't see nothing. Also, Scott Menville, who's best known for voicing Robin on Teen Titans, was brought on to dub over Spider-Man's groans and moans when Andrew Garfield was unavailable to do ADR work. Also, the guy that played Dennis Carradine in the first Spider-Man film wanted to play the burglar, but he was then chosen to instead play one of the drivers for Oscorp. Now, isn't that ironic? Hoo boy. Also, originally, they were supposed to... let me find it. Let me find that fact. There was almost a scene where Peter tracks down Uncle Ben's killer and repeatedly punches the guy, but it was scrapped because it was deemed too brutal, and pretty much she became. Even in Spider-Man, Peter's able to find his father's killer, but no, not his father's killer, Uncle Ben's killer. But here in The Amazing Spider-Man, this version of Peter does not find his killer, but it's actually in the video games. Peter is able to canonically find his uncle's killer and bring him to justice. Pretty crazy, right? Whether it's the Amazing Spider-Man video game or The Amazing Spider-Man 2, I'll have to recheck. Which Amazing Spider-Man video game does Peter find Uncle Ben's killer? Ah, yes. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is where Peter finds... the guy who killed Peter's father. Peter's... Uncle Ben's killer. Well, geez, I am struggling with words today. Okay. Also, you'll notice that this film does not technically not say, "With great power comes great responsibility," but, the intentions are still there. Now, interestingly, the characters that appear in the Amazing Spider-Man video game are Cletus Cassidy, Carnage, Shocker, Kingpin, Kraven the Hunter, Harry Osborn as the Green Goblin, Felicia Hardy as the Black Cat, Gene Wolfe, as well as the Chameleon, and J. Jonah Jameson and Electro. This shows that Flash is, a decent guy. Yeah, I can imagine she doesn't really want to sleep in that bed anymore. Now, Campbell Scott plays Richard Parker in this film. Now, Martin Sheen previously appeared in The Dead Zone with Campbell Scott's mother, Colleen Dewhurst, and in Firestarter with his father, George C. Scott. So that's two Stephen King adaptations. Colleen Dewhurst also appeared in Anne of Green Gables while Sheen appeared in a later version in 2016. But yeah, I did not know the guy that played Richard Parker was George C. Scott's son. Like, run! He's crawling. But yeah, The Amazing Spider-Man also marks the second time that Martin Sheen and Cliff Robertson have shared a part. They both played Uncle Ben, and they also played John F. Kennedy. I believe it was Cliff Robertson who played JFK in PT 109, and Martin Sheen played JFK in 1983 Kennedy movie. And I'll never see you again. Oh yeah, it was a TV miniseries, my bad. But yeah, I almost forgot about that. And so inspires that famous red mask. I was like, yeah, this'll work, but maybe if I put some web patterns on there, that just might make it even better. Now, Andrew Garfield admitted to shedding tears when first wearing the Spider-Man costume. And thus starts the mechanical web shooters, and also The Amazing Spider-Man is notable for being the first Spider-Man film to feature the artificial web shooters. I thought that was funny. But yeah, his signature web shooters in the comics. Now, Mark Webb explained the web shooters were a creative decision to showcase Peter's intellect. We wanted to emphasize that these are the things that Peter Parker made and that he is special himself, even if he feels like he's an outsider. Yep, I have the agility of a radioactive spider. Whee! Happy landing. Another happy landing. The old police scanner. Ah, man, the fact that I can't swing on buildings is such a pain! Nope, but I'm still gonna capture you. Do you have the slightest idea how little that narrows it down? After Dennis Leary was cast as Captain George Stacy, his friend Jeff Garlin, who's a big Spider-Man fan, said, "I knew you would get the part." To which Leary replied, "Why? Because I'm such a great actor?" Garland then said, "No, because you look just like Captain Stacy." Lots and lots of spandex. You know, I know a lot of people aren't fans of the Amazing Spider-Man suit, and I get it. And I do favor the suit from Amazing Spider-Man 2, but his suit here is pretty decent. I think it actually reminds me of Ben Reilly's alternate Spider-Man costume. Now, according to costume designer Kim Barrett, the Spider-Man costume was specifically designed to resemble an acrobat costume. We wanted a design that would make the body longer and more lithe. Someone incredibly agile. The legs of the spider symbol on the chest were used to emphasize that. Good luck finding organic eggs. But yeah, I guess I'll talk about the work that Kim Barrett had done. Now, Kim Barrett was a frequent collaborator of the Wachowskis, having done costume designs for the Matrix trilogy, Speed Racer, Cloud Atlas, and Jupiter Ascending. Also, I really love Spider-Man just taunting this guy. I was like, I know a lot. Some people think that Spider-Man's a douche here, but I think he's pretty funny in this one. He really does. Andrew captures the spirit of Spider-Man's wisecracking attitude, like out of the comics. I think both Tobey Maguire and Tom Holland both know how to capture the comedic nature of Spider-Man. And whether one is better than the other, I think they're both even when it comes to Spider-Man's wisecracking quips, and it really does work to the film's benefit. I know that a lot of people aren't fans of the Amazing Spider-Man films, but Andrew Garfield's wisecracking attitude is definitely the best part about this. Yeah, a lot worse. You in the tights. Oh boy, could have accidentally shot that guy. Just did 80% of your job. Me, I do 99% of customers' jobs. Anyway, like I was saying, so other films that Kim Barrett has done are Romeo and Juliet from 1996, starring Leonardo DiCaprio, Three Kings, Titan A.E., Gothica, starring Halle Berry and Robert Downey Jr., Aragon, Green Hornet, starring Seth Rogen and Christoph Waltz, The Nice Guys, The Shallows, starring Blake Lively, American Made, Aquaman, Jordan Peele's Us, the Charlie's Angels reboot from 2019, and Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Kim Barrett's upcoming project is the Street Fighter movie, coming this year, which I think is pretty cool. Also, it's kind of crazy knowing that this year we are going to have Mortal Kombat 2 and Street Fighter the movie releasing in the same year. How awesome is that? Guess what you forgot, Peter? You forgot the organic eggs. You're 16. Nope. Yeah, besides, I doubt there's a Winco that's 24 hours. Oh boy. It's a fight club. Now, Andrew Garfield opened up about his suit being uncomfortable during an appearance on The Ellen DeGeneres Show in 2012. He said, "It's made of something that's designed to make you irritated. I don't know what that the exact name is, but that's the description of the label." You might find this amusing. During filming, the sleeve that Reese Ifans wore so his right arm could be removed in post-production was called Kermit by the crew because it had the same green color as Kermit the Frog from The Muppets. The sleeve can be seen in the deleted scenes and behind-the-scenes features. That's pretty funny. It's like, imagine if Reese Ifans accidentally busted the green sleeve and it's like, oh, Kermit's busted. We better get a new Kermit. Because Mark Webb wanted to make the movie's world more grounded in reality, he knew fans would have been upset if he got rid of the lizard's snout, but he felt it was important that the lizard was able to speak with intellectual capability and ability to communicate. It would make sense that he could speak biologically, and argued if it was a snout, then he wouldn't be able to have any expressions or form any sentences, and you wouldn't be able to see Reese Evans's performance that would make the audience sympathize with. Ooh, what you just say? Tick, tick, tick. Oh boy, I feel the sneeze coming up. Yeah, it's and now this is making me think of that quote from Iron Man, in which Obadiah Stane says to Tony Stark, "Do you really think that just because you have an idea that it belongs to you?" This really does fit that scene well. Also, this is interesting. Emma Stone and Sally Field share a birthday of November 6th, just 40 years apart. Now, Emma Stone reflected on this film in 2025, and this is what she had to say. "I really loved doing Spider Man. I loved everyone I worked with. I met Andrew there, and we dated. I met Andrew there. I met Sally Field, and Mark Webb was wonderful. It was really a special time in my life. The recurring theme is the people more than the film itself is what sticks with me for so long, and so I have only the fondest memories of this whole experience." However, she found the press tours exhausting. "I don't really know how people do it. I remember it being like 9 countries in maybe 2 weeks, and you're functioning in a state of jet lag never previously known to you. I felt truly psychotic the entire time." Now, costume designer Kim Barrett constructed the Spider Man suit on top of Andrew Garfield's physique to create an aerodynamic kind of sport like Spider Man. Quite a way to to get in there. Okay, so there's definitely one aspect of James Horner's score in the Amazing Spider-Man. It's definitely the romantic music between Peter and Gwen. I mean, it's the thought that counts. And she means the dress clothes. You know, he could knock. Oh boy, he's sweating up a storm. Interesting detail. I actually like the detail of how his arm grows back and how it starts out kind of mossy and, he has to peel it off almost like whenever a lizard's skin, a lizard's skin pretty much peels off, sheds with new skin and new flesh and such. How long does it take for a lizard's limb to grow back? Now in real life it takes around 60 days for a real life lizard to grow back their limbs. Uh-oh. Looks like the side effects are starting to get a little negative, shall we say. Also, I love how he's transforming in the background. Whoa! Nope, he's not tweaking. He's about to turn into a lizard. Also, one of Gwen's other brothers is played by Skylar Gisondo, who would later on play Jimmy Olsen in Superman, which is crazy, you know. You know, it's ironic. In the comics, George Stacy was a big supporter of Spider-Man. It's kind of funny, you know. Now, Helen Stacy made her first appearance in the comic story Proto Goblin from Spider Man number 1, published in July of 1997, created by Howard Mackey and artist Dan Fraga. Oh man, she's like, Gwen's like, ugh, I'm gonna die from embarrassment. Oh boy. Oh boy. I must admit, yeah, Dennis Leary does give George Stacy a nice personality, and it's definitely better over James Cromwell's performance as Captain George Stacy. Oh boy. By a bug. Oh, wow. Probably the love bug. Yeah, just say it, Peter. Also, yeah, part of the score does remind me of uh, the score also reminds me of the score to Bicentennial Man, which was also composed by James Horner. Specifically, the intro music. Just look up intro Bicentennial Man, and you'll see. You'll see. Great timing, Helen. Oh yeah, they are both blushing messes. My spider senses are tingling. Yeah, big trouble. It might be the death of you one day, Gwen. Oh boy, New York traffic. Yep, there's the guy that plays Dennis Carradine. Also, I guess I can mention one of the producers. Now, this was the first reboot produced by Avi Arad, and Avi Arad had been a central part of Marvel Studios. He was even the CEO of Marvel Entertainment, Marvel Enterprises, for a long time, until he stepped down to start independently producing other films. And but the only Marvel Cinematic Universe movies that Avi Arad ever produced before stepping down from Marvel in general were Iron Man and the Incredible Hulk. And after that, he would start independently producing other films. And Ghost Rider: Spirit of Vengeance was the first Marvel film he produced for Sony. And he was always overseeing other Spider-Man films. Yeah, maybe you should have gotten the kid out first. Yep. I mean, this scene is actually okay. Because it's like Peter's trying to calm the kid down, and it helps. Oh boy, flaming, flaming hot. Yeah, kind of a placebo effect, if you will. That's the spirit. Yeah, my arm's getting tired. Nice catch. Well done. He's like, now give me back my mask. Because, I got a secret identity. Hearing this score really does make me miss James Horner. Shoot, I was afraid to do the I'm Batman joke, but I'm glad I stopped myself. Also, I really like that when Andrew Garfield appeared in Spider-Man No Way Home, composer Michael Giacchino decided to use part of James Horner's score when he made his entrance. It has small, subtle hints. It's very nice. Yeah, so temporary. Yeah, quite an experience. It might drive him a little mad. We all go mad sometimes, haven't you? Oh man, it's a good thing he wasn't drinking anything. Imagine if he just like, just sounds like that. And she's thinking, oh, what a reaction. It's interesting how in this version of Gwen Stacy knows that Peter is Spider-Man, when in the comics, Gwen didn't even know that Peter was Spider-Man. Ultimate Gwen Stacy from the classic Ultimate Spider-Man comics did, though. Also, I guess I could say this, Peter started his romantic relationship with Gwen in The Amazing Spider-Man number 66, which was published in 1968, written by Stan Lee and illustrated by John Romita Sr. and Don Heck, who was the co-creator of Iron Man. I sometimes forget all the cool stuff that Don Heck has done, but I will always remember Don Heck best as being one of the co-creators of Iron Man alongside Stan's brother, Larry Lieber. Let me double check. Well, that's sweet. Smoochy smoochy. Nice throw catch. Yeah, it's kind of crazy knowing that Stanley's brother, Larry Lieber, co-created Iron Man with Jack Kirby and Don Heck. Yoo-hoo, Kurt, where are you? Yep, gave him a break. Oh. Yeah, nice cover up. Oh boy. Well, I like the subtlety of it's like the first subtlety of a hint of a lizard scaly residue, if that makes sense. I'll be back. Oh boy. Wonderful things. Yeah, it sounds like my dad. Oh, that little snoring sound does not sound good. I thought that it was Gwen that discovered it, but yeah, the lizard rat hybrid is like, oh shit. That's when he realizes head first that yeah, he's the lizard. But it also kind of reminds me, when I was younger, I think after I saw this, I actually had a messed up dream where I had this messed up dream. Had this messed up dream where I saw a rat spider monster hybrid. It was tiny, but kind of as big as my hand, and I got big hands. And it's just yeah, it's just a spider rat hybrid in a nightmare. I think I only saw it once. I was like, oh, that's messed up. I guess I can tolerate rats, but I can understand why people aren't fond of rats. I mean, it does sound crazy, but it sounds crazy from anyone else's point of view. But you'd have to be there to understand it. which is funny because Godzilla does exist in the Marvel Universe. I'll have to double check. You gotta believe me! You gotta believe me! But just in cave. But yeah. Does Godzilla exist in the Marvel Universe? But yeah, Godzilla actually got his own comic book series back in 1977. Also, this is the only appearance of the Daily Bugle. Also, I love that this little hangout of that Peter uses when it comes to hunting wizards while hunting the lizard. Also, The Amazing Spider-Man is the first Spider-Man film to be released in 3D, because I'm sure everyone remembers the 3D gimmick. And I think the gimmick is far from dead. Totally won't kill me. Oh, yeah. I think that's a Nokia. Ah, detection. Exactly. Yep, he doesn't need spider senses to know things aren't gonna go so well. Oh, yeah, kind of an army of lizards. Ooh, designed lizard. Are you kidding me? Boo! Oh yeah, this was actually supposed to be the Saving Private Ryan moment for Peter to show that things were about to get intense. Yep, cowabunga! Of course. Yeah, that was not fun. Originally, Peter was supposed to taunt Lizard and, make fun of him and say, hey, you look like something like a Goomba. But that was taken down for obvious reasons. Property of Peter Parker. Oh, shit. Oof. Yeah, while she's cracking jokes, he's in pain. Maybe ixnay on a mutante, because, Fox legally owned the rights to the word mutant. Chocolate house. Oop, yep. Yep. Yeah, good thing she's so good at nursing. Dang, steamy. Because, anything that could go wrong does go wrong. Now, Emma Stone normally wears her hair red, but as Gwen Stacy, she appears in her natural blonde. The help co-star Bryce Dallas Howard is a natural redhead who had to dye her hair blonde for her role as Gwen Stacy in Spider-Man 3. Funnily enough, alternatively, Kirsten Dunst is typically a blonde and appeared as the redheaded Mary Jane in the Spider-Man trilogy. Oh, sorry, just laying on my left arm and it's starting to cause discomfort for my left shoulder. Yeah. Do a little "Can you read my mind" romantic scene like in Superman. Can you read my mind? Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Also, I love the detail that as he reverts back, he keeps getting more scalier and scalier. Uh, uh, Scalier and scalier, and just like in to really show like a residue. And this was actually done for his early stages of his transformation into Lizard. Practical makeup effects and prosthetics were done by Vincent Skikey and V. Neal. Vincent Skikey has done makeup work for Dogma, Requiem for a Dream, 141 episodes of Saturday Night Live, The Strangers, Salt, My Soul to Take, The Smurfs, Men in Black 3, and he collaborated with Paul Feig on The Heat, Spy and the Ghostbusters reboot, Fault in Our Stars, 67 episodes of Nurse Jackie, The Wiz Live, The New Mutants, and Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. Now, V. Neal is a frequent collaborator of Tim Burton, having done makeup for Beetlejuice, Edward Scissorhands, Batman Returns, Ed Wood, Mars Attacks, and Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street. She's won 3 Oscars for Best Makeup for her work on Beetlejuice, Mrs. Doubtfire, and Ed Wood. And V. Neal is one of the few female makeup artists to have won more Oscars for makeup. Her other works are Tourist Trap, Star Trek The Motion Picture, 9 to 5, The Incredible Shrinking Woman, 61 episodes of The A-Team, The Lost Boys, 22 episodes of Pee-wee's Playhouse, many Pee Wee Herman spin-offs and movies, Dick Tracy, Hook, Hoffa, Jr., Schumacher's Batman sequels, Matilda, 3 episodes of the Shining miniseries, Amistad, Man on the Moon, Galaxy Quest, the 2000 How the Grinch Stole Christmas movie, AI Artificial Intelligence from 2001, Austin Powers' Goldmember, the Pirates of the Caribbean trilogy, The Chronicles of Riddick, Constantine, Aragon, Love Guru, Priest, John Carter, The Hunger Games quadrilogy, X-Men Days of Future Past, A Star is Born from 2018, and the Michael Jackson biopic movie. Now, when it came to Kurt's human form, with the whole makeup for him looking more lizard-like, it took 7 or 8 hours to put the silicone pieces and makeup paint on Rhys Ifans when turning him into the lizard. Ifans stated that the long hours in the makeup chair, combined with the lack of cigarettes, helped him reach the right mental state to play a mad scientist turning into a lizard monster. Yep, don't want to talk at all. It's like, ooh, he's pissed off. Ooh! Good luck with that. Oh, well, yeah. I don't blame him for thinking that. I mean, that certainly distracted him. It'd be funny if he said, after this, you're fired. I mean, I can only hold him off for so long. Ugh, what a waste of a trophy. Hey, at least it didn't snap her neck or her back. Too soon. Also, yes, this cameo appearance from Stanley is definitely underrated, but hilarious. Because it's like Peter's fighting Lizard trying to make sure this old man does not get killed, and it's pretty hilarious, all things considered. Yeah, I bet that is not fun. Yoo-hoo! Here, lizard, 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 lizard. Here, lizard, 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 lizard. Maybe put your mask back on in case you run into one of your classmates, Peter. Yeah, if you could do that, that would be terrific. Oscorp. And I'm sure Flash is in disbelief. It's like, wait, an actual lizard monster? You gotta be shitting me. Which is a totally normal thing for him to say. It's crazy to think that it's all nearly 100 minutes in, and, the story's still engaging, Which really I mean, what is the longest Spider-Man film so far? That weakness, oh boy. Well, he's not wrong. Yep, the thingamajig. I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure Captain Stacy is still in disbelief that it's an actual lizard monster. Well, I was like, oh, that was rude. What is the longest Spider-Man movie? Yeah, okay, so Spider-Man No Way Home is actually longer than The Amazing Spider-Man at around 148 minutes. Jeez. It's like, oh, and I really like this lab coat. Also, yeah, these human lizard hybrids mutations are kind of underwhelming, and not much is done about it afterwards. At least he had the decency to close the sewer lid. And what could possibly go wrong? I mean, what would you rather? What would you rather she do? The way he mutters in frustration. I mean, I would too. Oh boy. Oh, missed it by that much. Oof, blinding lights. Oof. Thank goodness he has his Spider-Man powers, because at least he'd be able to walk it off. Yeah, if he didn't have his Spider-Man powers, he wouldn't be able to walk that off. In fact, he'd be dead. And if he wasn't dead, he wouldn't be able to dance. Dun dun dun. Assaulting a police officer. Jameson was right. He is a public menace. Dun dun dun. Pretty, pretty, please. Ugh, one trigger-happy moron. Yeah, very, very strong. Yeah, in the Marvel Universe, while Deadpool is known as the Merc with the Mouth to Spider-Man's villains, he holds the same reputation. Most of Spider-Man's villains share the same hatred of his talking so much junk. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Well, there's the MacGuffin. Don't make any sudden movements, just like you're in Jurassic Park. Now, during his breaks, Andrew Garfield went around New York playing basketball with kids in his Spider-Man outfit, which is cute. Also, do you really think the whole flamethrower thing was going to work? Lizards are cold-blooded. They're attracted to stuff like flamethrowers. You know? Oof. Walk it off. Yep, GTFO. And so, he decides to pay it forward. Now, Oscorp made its first official appearance in The Amazing Spider-Man number 37, which was also where Norman Osborn, I believe, made his first appearance as well. Get your mug over here. Also, yeah, this scene where the crane operators are able to make something to help accommodate Spider-Man's web shooting is actually very nice. I'd say it's the equivalent to the whole you mess with. I would compare it quite favorably to the train scene, and as well as the You mess with all of us, one of us, you mess with all of us. Yep, see the light, it's calling. Run, Forrest, run! Uh-oh. Nice save. Like I said, I think James Horner's composition really does complement this scene very well. And it's visually beautiful, you know? It's like, even if it might not be 100% real, even if it's not 100% real, it's still pretty to look at. Yeah, sorry, it's just the music is really absorbing me into this scene. Very nice. Yep. I'm up to speed. Yep. He's probably thinking to himself, let's hope this doesn't become the death of me. But it kind of is. Lizard smash! Yeah, see, I think I could tell Connors hates that webbing in his face. It's like, oh, seriously? I am so sick of this. I could tell that this Spider-Man is that Spider-Man falling on his back was CG. Oh man, and you destroyed the web shooters. Rude. Oh yeah. Ooh, that's just mean. Yeah, well, at least I have a hot girlfriend. I'm not alone. Maybe you shouldn't have focused on roaring at him. Ah, well. Chill out, dickwad. Ooh, that's gotta hurt. Have a nice trip. See you next fall. Yeah, over the top violence like this is probably what gave it its PG-13 rating. Oh boy, 30 seconds. The stakes are high. Uh-oh. You know, you can't keep shooting him forever. Ooh, that looks fatal. Oh boy. Yeet! Perfect! Projectile launch! Yeah, I think he was smiling for a moment there. Then Doc's like, wait, that doesn't look green. Yep. Bye bye, lizard. Yep. Yes. Oof, that's gotta hurt. Yep. Timber! Whew. Man, it's a good thing that thing missed. Hope it doesn't land on any innocent civilians. Do you think you could, curry up? My arm's getting tired. Well, whatever's left of my arm. Yeah, I'm not sure whether that's digital or not, but with some hints of makeup, which is pretty good, you know? Good combo of digital and makeup. I'd love to see the behind the scenes of, Reese Ifans in the makeup. As yeah, you better look after him. Yeah, I don't think he's gonna make it. Now, George Stacy died in issue number 90 in The Amazing Spider-Man in 1970, written by Stan Lee and illustrated by Gil Kane. Whereas the Lizard kills George in this movie, in the comics, it was Dr. Octopus who was responsible for the death of George Stacy. Dr. Octopus caused the building to fall down, and George saved a young boy from being killed, getting crushed by the debris. He died in Peter's arms, asking Peter to take care of Gwen. And it turns out he always knew Peter was Spider-Man. Dun dun dun. Also, that's... So it's very ironic, you know? Now, Dennis Leary was enormously impressed by Andrew Garfield. He felt it particularly in his character's death scene when he could feel Garfield's real tears falling on him. Because, yeah, say what you will about the quality of the Amazing Spider-Man films, Andrew's acting is definitely the saving grace of this film. His acting really does make this film work. And yeah, once again, it's very much carried by James Horner's score. Because Andrew Garfield knows how to express anguish, heartbreak, and grief. An eerie calm. Well, that's nice. Yeah. Yep, I got bitten and scratched by the lizard. But I got something for you, Aunt May. I got you some eggs. But let's hope that the eggs weren't damaged. Yep, silently watching. Yep, hiding. Kind of stalking. Now, it's ironic. In the comics, Gwen blamed Spider Man for her father's death, not knowing that Peter was Spider Man. It got so intense, like, it escalated to where Spider Man fought Iceman from the X Men in The Amazing Spider Man number 90. Yeah, because they respected George. I think scenes like this really prove why Emma Stone was destined to win an Oscar or two. Oof. Yeah, he's starting to see the consequences of being Spider-Man. Sorry, once again, absorbed by the scene. And Gwen and Peter doesn't need to say anything for Gwen to understand. I mean, Peter's resigned face says everything. She can even tell by the resigned look on his face, which is great nonverbal acting on on Andrew Garfield's part. Yeah. Kinda not enough room in that. Oh, yeah. Way to go, Aunt May. This is actually a good voice message. Also, I like that rear window poster. Oh, young Martin Sheen. With great power comes great responsibility. I hope Peter was able to keep that message. You know? That I actually do like this camaraderie between Flash and Peter, just like in the comics. To indicate how Flash Thompson supports Spider-Man. Ain't that hilarious? What issue did Peter Parker start becoming friends with Flash Thompson? Yeah, so Peter and Flash started becoming friends in The Amazing Spider-Man number 138. Yeah, it's like in how the Amazing Spider-Man should have ended. It's like after he says that, Gwen gets angry. He's like, "What?" And so like Batman and Superman call out Peter for this. Like, dude, you're in the doghouse for that. It was pretty hilarious and totally realistic. Anyone in Gwen's position would totally say that. I know it sounds cute, but it also sounds kind of creepy almost too. But yeah. Whee! Spins a web any size, catches thieves just like flies. Look out! Here comes the Spider-Man. Like I said, the theme song is not Danny Elfman's theme song, but it's definitely good, definitely passable, definitely exciting. Who am I? I'm Spider-Man. But yeah, well, before I get into my final thoughts, I have to say that, this film's far from over. It's not done yet because also The Amazing Spider-Man is the first Spider-Man movie to have a mid-credits scene. Yeah, bet you didn't know that. I mean, Iron Man got me into the habit of staying in the credits for staying past the credits to wait for any post-credit scene or mid-credit scene. You know what I mean? I'm on your slow phone. I bet it's an error. Finally. But yeah. Yeah, did not. A little faster, please, with urgency. I haven't got all day. But yeah, The Amazing Spider-Man is the first live-action Spider-Man movie in which a main villain ends the movie in prison rather than dead or at large. Yep, and here's where the franchise starts going downhill as the studio wanted to try to develop a Sinister Six reboot. And I didn't know that the Gentleman was played by the late Michael Massey. But yeah, the man interrogating Doc Connors in the mid-credits scene is Gustav Fiers, the gentleman, who ends up appearing again in Amazing Spider-Man 2, like it makes any difference. But yeah, also interestingly, the guy playing the gentleman, Michael Massey, he was in The Crow, accidentally killed Brandon Lee, and he also played Dr. Bruce Banner in Ultimate Avengers, the animated movie. But yeah, what are my initial thoughts on The Amazing Spider-Man looking back? Okay, well, I used to resent it, but I don't resent it as much as I used to anymore. I've actually grown to actually like it. And I do think that it's good. I mean, it's actually, for the most part, I mean, I have been doing my hardest to not compare The Amazing Spider-Man to the Sam Raimi films because here on Commentary Companions, I know that it's completely unfair to compare another film to its predecessor. I mean, trying to compare The Amazing Spider-Man to the Sam Raimi films is unfair. It's like trying to compare Superman Returns to the first two Christopher Reeve movies. We know it's unfair. We know what is the better film. But on its own, The Amazing Spider-Man is pretty good. It's actually really decent. It's actually it's actually really good, and it's actually it's well made, it's well filmed, it's well acted, and and the music is also pretty good too. It's actually a very good film for the most part, and I mean for a reboot, it's actually very good. And Andrew Garfield did a great job playing Spider-Man. I think if he had been the one to be cast as Spider-Man in the Sam Raimi films, I would have loved him as Spider-Man. And he's just as good as Tom Holland. They're all, The Amazing Spider-Man is pretty underrated, and it deserves much more love. And doesn't deserve to be hated like it used to. But I'm glad to see that people are starting to reappraise the film. I mean, it's nowhere near as great as The Avengers, but it's definitely better than Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance. In fact, I think it's superior. I mean, it's definitely better than Spider-Man 3, even if it's not as great as Spider-Man 2, but it's definitely up there. I would put it up there with the good Spider-Man films, right up there with Spider-Man 2 and the Spider-Verse films. So much so that I kind of wish that Andrew Garfield had been asked to return as Spider-Man for the Spider-Verse movies, He deserves I hope he gets a chance to really play Spider-Man again someday. But anyway, that was my commentary on The Amazing Spider-Man. Pretty good film. And, unfortunately, I'm not looking forward to doing a commentary on The Amazing Spider-Man 2, which I have to rewatch, But anyway, thanks for listening to my commentary on The Amazing Spider-Man. Be sure to like and subscribe. Don't have a good day. Have a great day.